Something is wrong in your kitchen right now. Not with the food, not with you, with the machine humming in the corner that you've trusted your entire life. Because inside that refrigerator, at this exact moment, there are foods being quietly ruined, flavors being permanently erased, nutrients being locked away. And not one person in the modern food system has any financial reason to tell you that. But the Amish do. And they have been telling us, not with words, but with the way they've lived for over 2 centuries. Welcome to Quicksecret. Today we're walking through 20 foods your refrigerator is destroying, and the centuries-old wisdom that proves you never needed to keep them cold in the first place. Let's start with a question nobody asks. Why did the refrigerator become mandatory in the first place? Not because scientists discovered that room temperature food was suddenly dangerous. Not because our biology changed. The refrigerator became a fixture in every American home because appliance manufacturers needed to sell appliances. And once every household had one, the food industry needed to create reasons to fill it. Guidelines were rewritten. The definition of safe shrank dramatically. Foods that had survived on open shelves and ceramic crocks and cool pantry corners for 300 years were suddenly declared risky. And most people went along with it, because the machine was right there and it was humming and it felt modern. The Amish communities of Lancaster County, Holmes County, and dozens of settlements across the Midwest never made that trade. Their kitchens still operate the way every kitchen once operated, with living cultures on the counter, rendered fats in sealed jars, eggs in open bowls, and bones simmering on the back of the stove. And their families are not sick. They are not suffering. They are eating food that tastes the way food is supposed to taste. That gap between what we were told and what they kept doing is what this video is about. Start with eggs, because this one will genuinely stop you. When a hen lays an egg, her body coats it in something invisible and extraordinary. It's called the bloom, or the cuticle, a thin protein layer that seals every one of the roughly 16,000 microscopic pores in the eggshell. It creates a natural barrier against bacteria, against moisture loss, against contamination from the outside world. A fresh egg with its bloom intact is shelf-stable at room temperature for several weeks. In a cool, dark location, months. This is why a bowl of eggs sitting on an Amish kitchen counter is not reckless. It is biologically correct. So why do your supermarket eggs require refrigeration? Because they were washed before they reached you. Federal regulations in the United States require commercial egg washing. And that process, designed to clean the shell, strips the bloom completely. What's left is a porous shell with no natural defense, which is precisely why a washed egg must be kept cold. In other words, commercial eggs are refrigerated to compensate for a protection that was deliberately removed. France doesn't wash its commercial eggs, neither does Germany, the UK, or most of Europe. Walk into a grocery store in Paris, and you will find eggs stacked at room temperature in open bins. No health crisis, no national outbreak. Just eggs stored the way eggs were always meant to be stored. If you keep backyard chickens and collect your own eggs without washing them, those eggs belong on your counter. Leave them there for up to 3 weeks without any safety concern. Wash them only right before you crack them. The bloom does the rest. Now let's talk about bread. And a mistake that almost every household is making right now. The instinct makes sense on the surface. Put the bread in the refrigerator, keep it cold, make it last longer. Here's the problem. Refrigerators run at approximately 38 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And that temperature range, by cruel coincidence, is the precise zone where bread stales fastest. The process is called retrogradation, the crystallization of starch molecules as they cool. It is what staling is, at a molecular level. And it happens not at room temperature, not in the freezer, but exactly where your refrigerator operates. A loaf of bread placed in the refrigerator today will be noticeably staler tomorrow than a loaf left on the counter. The refrigerator isn't preserving it, it's accelerating its decline. The Amish solution is the correct one, a cloth wrap or bread box for room temperature storage covering the first 3 to 4 days. For anything beyond that, slice it and freeze it. Bread thawed from the freezer at room temperature or toasted directly from frozen is dramatically superior in texture and flavor to anything that spent even 48 hours in a refrigerator. The fridge is the one place bread should almost never go, and yet it's where most of America stores it. Tomatoes are next, and this one is permanent damage. Below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly 13 degrees Celsius, tomatoes experience an irreversible cellular breakdown. The enzymes responsible for producing the volatile aromatic compounds that give a tomato its flavor, its brightening, its complexity. Those enzymes are deactivated by cold, not paused, not slowed, permanently shut off. When you pull a refrigerated tomato back to room temperature, it does not recover. The mealy, flavorless, texturally wrong tomato that has become the standard American supermarket experience is not a tomato variety problem. It is a refrigeration problem. Somewhere between the field and your plate, the tomato was chilled, and it never came back. Keep tomatoes stem side down on the counter away from direct sunlight. That is the entire solution. Room temperature, always. Now we need to talk about the fats, because this is where the story gets deliberately dark. Rendered animal fats, lard from pork, tallow from beef, ghee from butter, were once standard fixtures in every American kitchen. Not in the refrigerator, on the shelf, in sealed jars or ceramic crocks, available at room temperature because they were stable at room temperature and because they produced results that nothing else could match. Lard, specifically the fat rendered from around the kidneys called leaf lard, creates a flakiness in pie crust and biscuit dough that is chemically distinct from what butter, shortening, or any plant-based fat produces. Its fat crystal structure is unique. Professional bakers who work in traditional techniques will tell you without hesitation, for pastry, for biscuit, for tamale dough, lard is the correct fat. Tallow is what McDonald's fried its French fries in until 1990. The year that changed was not determined by health science. It was determined by sustained public pressure from the seed oil industry. People who ate those fries before 1990 remember them as distinctly different, better, more satisfying, with a depth that the vegetable oil replacement never achieved. That is not nostalgia talking. Tallow's saturated fat content makes it heat stable in a way that polyunsaturated vegetable oils are not. At high temperatures, those oils oxidize and break down into compounds that are genuinely harmful. Tallow does not do that. Ghee, clarified butter with the water and milk solids removed, keeps for 12 to 18 months at room temperature in a sealed glass jar. No refrigeration. Its smoke point exceeds 485 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than nearly any commercial cooking oil. And it can be made at home from a pound of butter in under 30 minutes, at a fraction of what specialty stores charge for it. These three fats vanished from American kitchens in the same decades that manufactured shortenings and industrially processed seed oils appeared. The research that condemned traditional fats was funded, in large part, by the companies that sold what replaced them, and what replaced them has now become the subject of serious scientific scrutiny. This is exactly the kind of buried truth that Quicksecret exists to bring forward. The patterns that only become visible when you ask who benefited from the story you were told. Let's close with winter squash, because this one makes the whole picture clear. A whole butternut squash, a whole acorn squash, a whole pumpkin sitting on a pantry shelf or cool basement ledge. These last 3 to 6 months without any intervention. The thick, cured skin and naturally low moisture content make them among the most shelf-stable foods in existence. Refrigerate that same whole squash. The combination of cold and moisture attacks the skin and the flesh beneath it. A butternut that would have lasted 4 months on a cool shelf typically develops soft spots within 3 to 4 weeks in a refrigerator. Amish households line their root cellars and mudrooms with cured winter squash every October and eat from that supply through February. No electricity, no preservation chemicals, no intervention beyond a cool, dry space. The refrigerator is not an improvement here. It is an active downgrade. Here is what ties all 20 of these foods together. None of them were failed by time. None of them were failed by nature. They were failed by a system that needed us to distrust our own kitchens, to need more products, more appliances, more solutions, to problems that were quietly manufactured on our behalf. Your great-grandmother didn't refrigerate her eggs. She didn't chill her tomatoes or her squash. She didn't discard soured milk or question the butter crock on the counter. She cooked from a kitchen that had operated correctly for generations before her, and it worked. You were handed a refrigerator and told to fill it. Nobody asked whether everything in it actually belonged there. Now you know. This is Quicksecret, and we're just getting started. Drop a comment below with the food that surprised you most. Share this with one person who still refrigerates their tomatoes. And subscribe, because what we're uncovering next week goes even deeper than this. You were never supposed to find out. Keep watching anyway.